Welcome back to the seventh part of A Galaxy of Her Own, and today we are learning about Jerrie Cobb, who was a pilot who was born in the USA in 1931 and is still alive. Jerrie Cobb has always been fiercely determined, incredibly talented, and one of a small handful of female pilots in the 1950s. She has fought through her life to prove that women are as able as men, both physically and mentally. When NASA was selecting their first astronauts for the Mercury program, scientists and doctors did not know exactly what would happen to the human body in space. NASA approached a doctor, Randy Lovelace, and asked him to find the most perfect physical specimens. He put some pilots through an extraordinary series of physical tests, possibly the most thorough medical ever. After selection, NASA announced their first 7 astronauts, known as the Mercury 7, all white, male test pilots. Lovelace was interested to know how women might fare under the same tests. Some people thought women would make better astronauts, being generally smaller and lighter, and therefore easier to launch, requiring fewer resources to stay alive, and possibly being better at staying calm under pressure. In September 1959, by sheer chance, Jerrie and a colleague were walking on the beach as Lovelace emerged from the sea after an early morning swim, and Lovelace and Jerrie were introduced. Lovelace found out that Jerrie had been a pilot for 16 years and that she excelled at flying, and he knew he'd found the person he'd been looking for. Lovelace asked Jerrie if she would be prepared to undergo the same tests as the Mercury astronauts, and she jumped at the chance. She suggested some names of other female pilots, and between them they found a group of 19 women who would undergo the examinations. Jerrie went through the test first and passed with flying colours. Many of the women scored better on the test than the Mercury 7, and the doctors observed that they all complained far less as they went through the physical onslaught of needles, x-rays and electrodes. Sadly though, the programme was suddenly stopped. It was not a NASA programme, and the Navy refused to allow Lovelace further access to their facilities. Jerrie and others lobbied the American courts, but the conclusion was that women weren't needed. NASA focused on the race to the moon. Jerrie was hired by NASA as a consultant, but after 3 years of feeling not very consulted, she left and moved to the Amazonian jungle to work as a missionary and a solo pilot, delivering food, medicine and other aid to the indigenous people in the rainforest. 40 years later, she still harbours a burning desire to go into space. It is the one thing that would have brought her back from the jungle. And this is that illustration of Jerrie Cobb. And her quote, "I would give my life to fly in space. I really would."